viewers. How are you doing? This is Brian J.T. Watts here with another episode of Come Together. Today, I'm talking to one of my great friends, Azikiwe Chandler. He's a teacher like I am, a math teacher, and he's going to be just, expressing himself, talking about a few things in our community and some of the goals that he has for him and his family. And we'll be talking about all of that. That's just what we're going to be doing. So join us after the intro, and we'll see you there.
This is the greatest game of telephone that has ever been played. Someone said the black man doesn't raise his kids or care for his family, and that message is still being told to everyone today. They even have us saying,
We are not a monolith. We have various opinions and thoughts. We are much more than what we are portrayed to be by the media.
even when we are the victims of injustice, we are still portrayed as the perpetrators. When it comes to the black man, there is an intentional plan to discredit the past, arrest the present, and destroy the future.
Something must be done, but nothing will work until we come together. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are speaking to one of my good friends. He's all the way out in Costa Rica, and that's why I'm jealous. So I have on this shirt today, so I can feel a little tropical myself. So Azikiwe, introduce yourself to the people, man.
My name is Azikiwe Chandler. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. At least that's where I was raised. Born in Brooklyn, New York. And I've been an educator, basically taking kids on trips around the world for most of my life. But also teaching inside the classroom as well. And now my wife, my youngest daughter and I are here in Costa Rica, teaching still at an international school. But the ultimate objective is to have our own little piece of land where we can contribute to healing and educating our community, people of African descent from all over the world.
Sounds great, man. It's definitely a great plan. It's funny because all my life, I've heard people make plans like that, but I've never seen them step towards them like that. You know what I'm saying? Not anybody that I knew. Right. I see it coming up. So to hear you talk about it and to see, well, wait, he's in Costa Rica. So, I think this is getting close. We're doing it. So viewers, I just want you to know, I met this young man in Kuwait. Actually, I met him in Qatar in the airport on the way to Kuwait. And we worked together in Kuwait as teachers, both of us mathematicians, and it was a wild experience for me. Zeke had his wife there, and I was by myself. But it was great, and having a brother like this around was good because I liked having you around because it was somebody I could bounce stuff off of. We even created our own little Black men's group that we got together, and that was great. Believe me, I mean, I don't know what it did for you personally, but I know that it was always something I looked forward to.
Oh, it was definitely necessary. I mean,
definitely. But I mean, I found myself waiting for that day, the end of the week, so we could do that. And I didn't know that was going to happen. When we first said we were going to do it, I was like, okay. So we'll see what happens. But it was like, oh no, this is a highlight of the week. And I don't know, a lot of people probably wouldn't know this. As growing up, I wasn't allowed to have friends over. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So having my own spot and everybody was coming to my spot, it was like, oh, it's finally happening. Sometimes
you was the one throwing down in the kitchen too now.
I mean, look, that's what helps it happen.
Absolutely. We definitely gonna be there if you keep throwing down like that.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna do whatever it needed to be to make it good. But it's funny how sometimes we can grow older and we still need those childhood things to be satisfied somehow. Right. And whenever we can do it in a positive way, I think is good. If we're still acting out and things of that nature, then I say, hey, it might be something you need to talk to somebody about. But if we can do it positively, then it's all good. So you have been, in my estimation, a real positive brother. We've talked about a lot of things in our community as far as being African American and all of that. And then I saw a video of your dad, and it all made sense of why you were the way you were. It was like, okay, Zeke is the junior. Okay, because this guy does this too, you know. And so it's always amazing to meet somebody's parents after you get to know them, you know, and you start to see, okay, that's where it comes from, you know. And so it was good to see that. So I definitely wanted to have you on because this show is all about us exposing the positivity of Black men and men of color. And you know, I think that there's a lot out there that is an issue. But the first thing I wanted to ask you about is this. I realized when I was younger, and I'm sure a lot of people have found this out, and some people find it a little strange, that in the Black community, when someone does something negative, let's say, you know, a Black guy robs a bank, huh?
Slap somebody in the face.
Well, we ain't gonna get to that. let's say a Black man robs a bank and kills some people. And the whole community is like, you've shamed us. You know, oh man, you just set us back, or you know, something like that. And we used to all do it. As soon as something would happen, we'd be like, is he Black? You know, that's what you wanted to know. I started to stray away from that as an older person and say, you know what, I'm not related to that guy. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like he set me back or he did something to me because he robbed this bank or he did whatever. What do you say about that? And how do you feel about that? And if you can, tell me where you think that came from.
Well, I'll tell you, it came from the legacy of slavery and white supremacy. I mean, that's where it came from. And because of that, you know, the construct of race and being able to look at Black folks, or being able to look at folks and say, okay, you Black folks in the United States, excuse me, are going to be the bottom rung. Right. And so that allows white people to feel like, well, no matter how bad I got it, I'm not enslaved. I'm not the worst. And so as a result, you know, all of these, and also enslavement, right? So in order to make someone a slave, if you consider yourself a quote unquote moral human being, you have to dehumanize the other person, right? We're enslaving them because they were worse off where they were, and we're bringing them here so we can, you know, give them a better life. But in addition to that, you have to keep that going, because now the institution of slavery, you know, is not just 5 years or 10 years. We're talking decades and hundreds of years now. And so to keep that going, then you have to say, oh, but they're horrible. They're just horrible people. And we're the ones who are taking care of them now. You know, they're not going to have all their crime if you're, oh, I shot him because he was trying to rape my wife. All of this is excuses to make Black folks feel like we're less than what we are, right? So the question, go ahead and ask the question again so I can make sure I'm not.
Where did this community feel of, and one does something, we've all been set back.
Right.
You know?
So because they would very often say, well, so-and-so did something, right? And so they're all like that. And their mentality, that mentality is, you know, what ends up leading to lynching, right? So I could go out and do something, but for them, we're all the same, right? And so now an upstanding brother down the street ends up getting strung up because he's mistaken for me, right? And so now as a result, or maybe not, maybe they just wanted to string that brother up, who knows? Right. But the bottom line is, we kept thinking that if we were just as sharp and as clean as we could be, then maybe they would just leave us alone. You know, maybe we could just rise to our greatness. And so the idea is that we always want to put our best foot forward. That way they have no reason to brutalize us, to mistreat us. And I think that that's where it comes from, that whole idea of, you know, we always have to be the best. Right. I mean, I'll tell you right now, and it's something that's, you know, when we talk about critical race theory and institutionalized racism and the legacy of slavery and all that kind of stuff, there are two brothers that work here in the middle school. I'm the only one from the States. The other brother is here from Costa Rica. Now, if you were to walk around this school, that we don't have a dress code here like we had in Kuwait. Right. And I would wager to say that the dress code we had in Kuwait was because of Justin, you know, because he was the brother that was there, like, look, we got to be sharp. And so we carried ourselves in a certain way. Not that we didn't before we got to Kuwait, but we definitely kept that up there.
Exactly.
Now, if you walk around this school right now, what percentage of male teachers do you think would be in slacks, a shirt, and a tie?
I'm sure a very small percentage.
A very small percentage, maybe 5%. Okay. But that 5% is me and the other brother. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't wear a tie anymore. If I don't have to, it's hot enough here. I don't put on a tie. But I'm still going to have on a collared shirt and slacks because we know that we're not going to get the same benefit of the doubt, the same pass that everybody else gets. Exactly. So if nothing else, they can come in and say, well, Mr. Chandler and Mr. Rose, I mean, they shop every day. You know what I mean? Because they're trying to present themselves professionally to make sure that they are received and treated and perceived as professionals. And we have to do that, unfortunately, because we live in a world governed by white supremacy.
Oh, no doubt. Now, I worked in Nashville at McGavick High School. I had one of the best principal I ever had, Michael Tribute. He was amazing. His reputation had preceded him before I even got there. People were talking about this man. This black man who took over the biggest school in Nashville and changed a lot of stuff. Started to hire black male teachers more than anybody had done. And I mean, he had a bigger school, so it was good. But I noticed that the black males, we all started to shirt and tie all the time. And I mean, I even had one brother who used to wear cufflinks every day. And I was like, wow, that's big. Okay, I'm gonna do that one day. And I would love to call him and let him know now that, yeah, I got a bunch of cufflinks. But, you know, I mean, and it wasn't that we were trying to be flashy, but because a lot of, you know, it wasn't a bad school. It had been at one time. There were a lot of kids from all over the city, and I mean, it could get rough. But the black kids, to see black males dressed, standing in front of their door before class all the time, it started to give them a different idea of what being a black male was. Exactly. You know, and as they walk to us and they say hello and everything. And I remember some kids saying to me one time, like, why you dress up all the time, Mr. Watts? Why you can't look like us? And I'm like, because I'm not, y'all. You know, and it was just a thing. And I saw the difference. And it's not like we were saying you have to dress up to be somebody. It was, you can be this person. That's you right. You know, even though a lot of the other guys had on khakis and polo shirts and all that stuff, it was like, hey, look, we need something that your kids might not need. That's right. You know, and so we're going to go ahead and put it in. So I definitely understand it. And in Kuwait, the way that we started to walk around, I mean, we were dressed ridiculously. I mean, we looked like church every day. That's right. You know, all the teachers weren't, and some of the other guys were dressed like that as well because of the way clothes were there and everything. But it was really cool to see brothers walking around in, you know, custom-made outfits and that's right things. So it definitely gave a professionalism to the whole thing. So I definitely feel that. I've seen a lot with our brothers, and I'm sort of stuck sometimes because nowadays it seems that the lies and the rumors and the stereotypes have taken over so much that even if you don't live that way, it's almost what's expected, especially from our young people now. Right. And I was discussing this with somebody, and they said, well, what do you think the problem is? And I'm going to ask you as well, but I said one of the things that's a problem, and it's been a problem for years, is that the media now has taken on our negativity and made it positive on TV as if it's our thing. So if you think back, and I know you're not that much younger than me, so when you were watching TV back in the day, right? I lived in the projects in the South Bronx. When I saw the projects on television, I was watching Good Times, right? And there was no good times on that show. If there was a good time, it was quickly gone. Right. You know, they had it for a minute. They was always trying to do something, and then it was going to fail miserably. And even the thing that really got me about Good Times was when it came on, and right at the end, when they would pan back from Cabrini Green in Chicago, the train would run by. I lived in projects and the train ran. That's right. By mine. So it was like, yo. Right. That's us. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But we're not as bad off as they are, but that's us. It was my mom and dad and 3 kids. So good times was us. You know what I'm saying? But it was nothing positive about it. So I never was like, I want to imitate or emulate these guys on this show. Whereas now, when we show anything from the ghetto or from an urban thing, it's good. It's proud. You can be proud of it. And it's not something that people want to get out of. And I'm not saying that people in the ghetto are worse people, but I'm definitely saying they're in a worse condition. And it's not something now that people think they want to step above. I think that a lot of people, especially younger people, think that equates with blackness. And that's a real problem now, because black people, as we know, are everywhere in every stage of life. So what would you say is one of the contributing factors right now to us not really moving forward as fast or as hard as we should be?
Well, first of all, I agree with you. I think that that a lot of it is by design. So if we think back to what was on television when we were growing up, so before the Cosby Show, like you said, there was Good Times. There was Sanford and Son. So, we could be junkmen surrounded by junk and garbage.
What's happening?
What's happening? If you gave them some money, then this is the Jeffersons. They're gonna act like fools up in the high rise on the east side of town, right? So and then who's the most civilized man in Africa? The white dude swinging through the trees, right? Tarzan is going to be the most civilized man in Africa. So by design, they're telling us again, this is your lot.
Right.
You live in the projects. You can live in and then who had it good? Which were the black folks that had it good? The 2 white kids that got adopted by Mr. Drummond on Different Strokes.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the best you could hope for was that maybe some white folks would adopt you and you'd end up rich, right? so that's a part of what was being put out there. Now, then we look at hip hop. So again, being in Brooklyn in the summers in the late 80s and the 90s, we were there during the early years of hip hop before the record labels decided that they could make money off of it.
Right.
So that's not to say that there wasn't gangster rap back then. Yeah, there were. I mean, BDP, KRS-One, Boogie Down Productions, Wadada Day, listen to my 9mm go ahead. You know what I mean? Like there was that too, but we had the diversity. It wasn't just that. We also had Public Enemy. We also had Poor Righteous Teachers, the Jungle Brothers. The list goes on of the creativity that was there. Slick Rick was telling great stories. Eric B. and Rakim on the 5%. So there was all of this. But where did the money start to go? The money started going towards NWA because they started selling, millions of records, right? And so when they said, "Oh, wait a minute, we can make this money," we don't want to talk about that consciousness, though. We can't sell that. They talk about killing cops. Oh no, we're gonna get in trouble, but we selling so many albums.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so they're like, well, we can sell these. And so we start pushing more of that negativity out into the community, right? And it's more white folks buying that gangster rap than black folks are, but they selling albums, so they don't really care. Right. So that's one aspect of it. Now, I used to get pissed about it back in the day. I used to feel like, if brothers weren't out there making that foolishness, making that garbage, that slackness, then nobody could play it and we wouldn't be indoctrinated by it.
Right.
But the reality of it is brothers are just chasing the same American dream than anybody else is.
Right.
That's a formula. The formula is, well, if I give them what they want, this gangster rap, then they're going to give me what I want, my money. Right. So I don't care if I'm tearing down the community. I can build it back up later because they're going to see that I'm rich. They can get rich too, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's a big part of it, that is by design. The white supremacy and the system of white supremacy is meant to save itself. And in doing so, then we have to demonize everybody else. Everybody else has to be lesser than. So we're going to pick the worst aspects of the other communities and portray that as their reality, as that this is who they are. So I think that's a huge part of it. And so when you talk about the respectability politics in terms of black folks, wearing suits and ties and that kind of stuff, we're going against that because they're stereotyping us. They're giving us all this negative, and we're saying, nope, that's not who we are. Here's who we are. Now, you mentioned all of the media, et cetera, and you're right. Media is a huge part of it. But I got to tell you what I love about this day and age is that we're no longer beholden to just the 3, ABC, CBS, and NBC. Right. Now with Netflix and you got your own show now. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like now with this, black creatives can go ahead and put out what they want to put out. And it's a beautiful time to be able to see shows like Discovery. We got Afrofuturism, Black folks out there saving the universe time and time and again, not through brawn, but through intelligence and compassion and communication. You know what I mean? We got Equalizer. I mean, I've always loved Queen Latifah when she first came on the scene. And as corny as the show may seem on some regards, the fact that Black folks are the creatives and that we can be the saviors again and that we can tell our own stories, that's what's going to change all of this. You know what I mean? Black folks with creative energy saying, you know what? We don't have to just keep prescribing to that old tired system. Now we can just go out and put out, the information, the art that we want to put out that's going to uplift us. And there's so much of it out there. And it's so much of it out there now that, we don't have to watch Good Times and Sanford and Son and everything that we felt was belittling us. We can now choose to watch shows that are going to uplift and educate us.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I definitely feel you on that. I know that there are a lot of people who seem to want to talk about Black positivity. A lot of people, but it seems that there's always a break when something happens in the community, and sometimes when you see the way people act or the way people side with things, that you're not even understanding if the people who have talked about being positive are still ready to be positive. We're so conflicted, I think, with the things we've been taught, and so indoctrinated by even the things our parents might have taught us because of their indoctrination and things that they handed down, that it's sort of hard to get to a spot of, okay, this is actually what we should do, and this is how we should do it, and this is how we should think. It's hard to do that. I think that a lot of people have learned either directly or indirectly that white is right. And even some people who seem to be activists and everything, at some point you see something happen and you go, you must obviously still believe white is right, because it changes. They change when that comes about. I saw it when we were in Kuwait. In fact, the day we were leaving, I saw it more than I ever saw it before. When we were on the bus, and because of COVID, we were locked into our little city there, and they wouldn't let us out. And we were trying to get to the airport to get to the plane. And I was like, hey, we got to get out of here. What's up? And they were not letting us out. And the problem, when I looked at the bus, the way the bus was packed, there were two Kuwaitis at the driver's seat up there in the front, and there were Black people behind them. And that's all the guards could see. So we told some of the white people to get off the bus and talk to them. And all of a sudden, we were good.
Right.
We had gone to 4 different stops where the gates were, where we could get out, and they wouldn't let us out. But as soon as the white people got out and started talking to them, it was all good. And I was like, wow, all around the world, this is the case. And it was shocking to me that could easily happen. Was I glad that we had white people on the bus? Yes. I don't think that I have to hate white people to be positive for Black people, but I do detest some of the things that have been done. And I tell people all the time, I don't think there's been a caste system where the lower echelon has moved up without help from people that were above them.
Right.
It's always going to be somebody that's going to help you come through. That's how you're going to get over it. And so I'm looking for those people. People who, and I'm not saying that those people are going to be positive and helpful all the time, but I'm going to take the help that they give. So I'm going to ask you this question. I had a discussion with a young lady the other day, and we were talking about, of course, the award show, and that it was being produced by, I think his name's Will Packard. And she said that she was glad that it was poorly rated because she felt like the Oscars were using him to try to promote and to get all the Black people to come back because they had been boycotted a couple of years ago. Now, I'm going to tell you my answer, and then I'm going to ask you what you feel about that.
All right.
I said to her, obviously, you haven't been paying attention, because almost every time we've gotten into something that we weren't in before, it was because somebody was trying to use us. That's how we get chances. That's how you get in there and you show it, and then they can't deny you now. And so I was like, that's not something to wish failure on. You know, just because somebody's using you, that's when you wish even more success. So now it's like, okay, well, you can't deny it. This is a great producer. He does his thing. And obviously now you need to give us some more chances. So you tell me, what would you say to a statement like that? And how would you feel about, you know, that at all? I mean, is that a valid statement? I mean, I'm sure it's valid because it's somebody's opinion, but what would you think about it?
Well, again, I think we're in a very interesting time. So historically speaking, I think that we were at a place where we had to just use whatever opportunities we could get. So the Oscars, the Grammys, the Emmys, all of these things. These aren't institutions created by us for us, right? Now we end up in those institutions because that's what's around,
Right.
and because we end up dominating in our fields. So on the one hand, I definitely understand that mentality of however we get in there, we're gonna make the best of it once we get there, whether they're using us or not. I understand that mentality. But I think the other side of it is, again, we're in an age of transition where, just as we were saying, we're no longer beholden to NBC, CBS, and ABC. Now, there's YouTube, there's Peacock, there's Netflix, there's all these other areas where we can put our own content out there.
Right.
So we're no longer beholden to those systems. We don't have to beg to be a part of their shows anymore. We can set up our own if that's what we want to do. And so there's a part of me, I can see both sides of that. So
Right.
yeah, get your foot in. So, okay, I can talk about myself here at this school, right? I'm in Costa Rica. This was a means to an end, right? Finding a job here is what flew us here. It's what gives us housing,
Right.
And then puts food on the table, all of that kind of stuff. But is this my end? No, this is a way for me to get here.
Mhm.
And so there's a part of me that feels like, okay, now can I change this institution? Do I want to change it and make it so that they have more Black teachers and more Black students, all of those kinds of things? Maybe.
Right.
But the reality is I'm not staying here. We want to go to the East Coast where the Black folks are. We want to have our own school. We want to have our own environment that is catering to us and our needs. And so, on the one hand, like you said, use the opportunities, whether they're using us or not, but be mindful of the fact that you may be being used.
Oh,
right?
no doubt.
Like that's a part of it, because I think a lot of people feel like, all right, we made it, and don't realize, no, if you mess up, you're gonna be the scapegoat, right? So,
Right, no doubt.
So use those opportunities, but we can go and start creating our own. You know what I mean?
Well, a lot of people are doing it. A lot of
Right.
people are doing it. I know Isaac Hayes III, he was doing a lot to try to make, because since his dad was humongous in Memphis, and he has a little app out. I forgot what the name of it is, Fan Base or something like that he started, and he was talking about making our own Grammys and Emmys and all of this stuff. I think that a lot of people are into that. Tyler Perry built his studio.
Right.
There's another lady building a studio not far from Tyler Perry's studio.
Right.
I think it's coming, but it goes back to our other statement that some people inherently still feel that white is right. Like, unless we make it in those Grammys or those Emmys or those, what I'm saying, we're not doing anything. And I'm like, that's not true. Our movies way back in the day used to be exploitation films.
Right.
Okay. Because we were on a shoestring budget.
Right.
So you had Dolomite and all these people trying to make movies. He got $5 to make something,
Right.
That's all it could be.
Right.
And I heard that the guy who they called Step and Fetch It, which is the worst name you could possibly have, was the first Black actor that was a millionaire. First Black actor to be featured on the credits and stuff, as so he did some stuff. He opened some doors.
Right.
He was just a groundbreaker as far as a lot of stuff is concerned. So even though nobody wants those roles now and they were being used, they had to get in there and sort of make a little room. It's just like, I look at it as when you have that football play and you see the guy running down the middle and the blockers open up a little hole for him. That's what these guys were doing. Right. Some of them are doing it in acting, some are doing it in music, some are doing it in sports. And that's how we got to where we are today. For some reason, though, it doesn't seem like history is being taught the way it used to be taught either. I mean, I think that we were a lot closer to that age because our parents were in the civil rights struggle But the kids I see now, they don't know much about that. They're not looking at a struggle. They're like, hey, I know a bunch of rich Black people because they're rappers or because they're sports stars and they all want to be that. Or I want to be like this girl who's on reality TV. And I'm like, whoa, you don't want to do that. That's not what you want to do to make money. So I'm looking at ways that our brothers are being framed almost to not be successful because there's only a few brothers who can get in the NBA.
Right.
There's only a certain amount of teams. I forgot what the number is. There's only a certain amount of teams and a certain amount of players on each team. Okay.
Right.
All of those players don't leave every year. So that means all of those slots aren't open.
That's right.
So even if you're great, it's possible you won't make it.
That's right.
You know, I've been in the Bronx and in Harlem and in Brooklyn and all parts of the city when I lived in New York and saw brothers that were playing and doing things that were outrageous you've never seen before.
That's right.
Never going to the NBA.
Right.
Never. You know, I mean, either they didn't survive in school or they're just not somewhere where they would be recruited. And so if that's all you pay attention to, that's going to be a problem. And it's so hard to get this across to young people today that even these young guys who want to be rappers, I said, what kind of music you listen to? Hip hop. What else? Nothing. And you're probably not going to make it. They're like, wow, the other music is garbage. I said, okay, well, think of the guys that you think are the best and talk to them about what they listen to. They listen to rock, they listen to R&B, they listen to classical, they listen to neoclassic. So they listen to everything.
Well, I'm gonna push back on that a bit because I would agree with you, especially if we're talking about the old school DJs. You know what I mean? Because they didn't have instruments, so all they did was sample. And when they sampled, you know, the expertise, the objective was so that those who were listening couldn't tell what they were sampling from. Like they created new music from all these other things.
Right.
And so that's where they took a lot of pride in that. But then, you know, when we get to the 90s and now sampling is outlawed and you got to pay people for the samples and all of that kind of stuff, then you got Puff Daddy and I think he was still Puff Daddy then, and Will Smith. Basically just taking a whole track and changing the lyrics to it, right?
Right.
So they took the whole track, I don't know, Missing You, that Missing You song, that was a Sting, that was a Sting and the Police song, right?
And Men in Black is the whole Patrice Russian song.
Exactly. But they just took the whole thing. And I say all of that to say this, that yes, the old school artists, those people that we consider artists, actually did listen to all of this other stuff so they can pull it together and create something new. But a lot of these mumble rappers, these cats, they ain't listening to all the rest of that. They listen to all the mumble rap they can because that is the formula that they have seen that people get paid on.
Well, I'm not talking about the music that they use.
Right.
I'm talking about, I listen to somebody who I don't even listen to, like Lil Wayne. I've never really listened to him. And he knows about classical music. He listens to that stuff. He might not use it, but they listen to this kind of stuff so that when they do stuff, they have some kind of creative vibe. You know, even when he's kind of old school, Rakim, who's my favorite rapper, he was trying to rap the way he felt John Coltrane was on his songs.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. These guys have influences. I'm not saying they're putting it on their records, but I'm saying a lot of these guys listen to a wide variety of things so they can get ideas and all of this stuff. They may still use the same old beats and all this stuff, but if you're just listening to one type of music and that's where you want to succeed, you're probably never going to stand out.
Right.
And that's what I want these kids to know. Hey, listen, take all the chances you can take now. And I'm trying to get brothers to really get out there because there are great. I have some guys in my school who I'm extremely proud of. Black guys, white guys, Spanish guys, whatever. I mean, just extremely proud of them for the way that they're going for it. But I see too many of us that are just relaxing or not even coming to school now.
Right.
And it seems like since the pandemic has happened that we're very lax now on what we do with kids. And so it's like, no, this is not a time to relax on these kids. This is a time to push them. And, you know, as we saw when we were in Kuwait, it's a whole different culture there. So the men are going to be successful. If your parents have money and you're a male, you're already successful. You're good. You know, it's the women who have to hustle and try to get something together or find somebody to marry or whatever.
Right.
But, you know, we don't have that over here. And I'm looking at these guys like, hey, man, What do I have to do? So where would you say, if I said to you, we're going to, and money, let's say money was not an object for us, not an issue. And I brought you back over to the States and I said, look, Zeke, we're gonna influence the Black youth, the Black males of this country, and we're gonna bring them to a spot of excellence and make them successful. What would be 3 or 4 of the things that you would say we need to implement right away? We have all the money we want. We have all the sponsorships we need. How would we start off?
Yeah, I think the first thing is those positive examples. So surrounding them by people that they know love them.
Okay.
All right. So, if it's brothers, if it's sisters, Black faces that are quote unquote successful, and whose objective it is, who love them and want to see their success. Because in that love, I think you also find a certain amount of discipline, right? Okay. Self-discipline from the quote unquote authorities, the teachers, the parents, those people who are around. But that self-discipline that they have, they then instill in the kids, right? So self-esteem, self-determination, self-discipline, all of those things are going to help drive us forward. So first, we need to have the right people in place, those people who are the role models. Then those role models are embracing them in love. Everything is about your well-being and your success. And what does that look like? What does it look like to be an upstanding young man, to be an upstanding young lady, to be a responsible father, etc. So we show those examples, and then we teach. How did we get there? We didn't get there on our own. Other people helped us, and we learned. We learned through the process. So, so here you can see the Nguzo Saba.
Okay.
So for me, that's a big part of it. So I was, I was born into a collective in Brooklyn called Uhuru Sasa. Actually, the Uhuru Sasa, the collective was called the East. But within that organization, the East was the collective. And because of all these Black parents got together and said, listen, the school system is failing our kids. We need to do something about it. And so they got together and started their own school. Babajitu Ayusi was the driving force behind it. But my father was one of the headmasters of the school as well. And so what did that mean? Now we've got Black kids coming to school in red, black, and green uniforms, standing in the auditorium, pledging, saying the Black pledge on the wall, the murals around the walls. We see Marcus Garvey, W.E.B. Du Bois, Malcolm X, Frederick Douglass, etc. Those are the people that we're looking up to literally every day when we gather and we say our Black pledge. We stand at Angalia. We say words in Kiswahili. So we're learning all of these things, and all of that is instilling pride in ourselves. Because if we, I think Marcus Garvey, I'm paraphrasing, but people who has no knowledge of themselves like a tree without roots, right? And so if we don't know who we are, then we don't have that pride in ourselves, and we don't know what we can accomplish.
Right.
So instilling all of that. So the right people, the right curriculum, if you will, and that we're not talking about the books and that kind of stuff, but we are talking about what is it that we need to know that our ancestors did, so that we know that we're capable as well, and go out and do those things, and then given the resources to make those things happen. And then also, I feel like there has to be a place for healing. A place for healing and growth. And so we've experienced a lot of trauma, and, we like to say, man up, be strong, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is we got to talk about some of this stuff. That's right. And so if we can get therapists, that's the best thing, somebody who's trained in it, somebody who can understand our experience and respond to it. That's the best. But if we can't afford therapy, then we need to have brothers like yourself. We need to have brothers groups where we surround ourselves with good people and have conversations where we can talk about our problems and how we can overcome them in a positive way, so that we don't end up making ourselves worse off.
No doubt. That sounds good. That sounds great. I mean, listen, I'm gonna tell you, one thing that I liked about talking to the brothers was when you're a semi-intelligent person and you're by yourself, especially if you're a man, when you're pushed to, stand on your own and do this and the other, as long as you're in your head, you can believe you're correct.
Exactly.
And it's not because you're arrogant or this, that, and the other. It's because you were taught to do this,
Right.
and you can make it on your own. So, you know, and there's times when I sat down with y'all and I said, man, this, that, and the other, and I'm doing this. And you're like, why are you doing that?
Right.
Yeah. And somebody would say something that would be so simple, so easy, that would change my mind. I'm like, why didn't I think of that?
Right.
But because I'm busy with this problem, I'm trying to solve it, I'm trying to do everything, you know, and there's so many things going on. Sometimes just speaking out loud to a group of people who you already know somewhat care about you is going to be enough for somebody to put you in a place where you can go and succeed. And that's true. I mean, therapy is great. And I also think that people need to be talking to their friends, because I know I can go to a therapist right now, and depending on the issue, it might take that therapist a few months to get to know me enough to be able to say something.
Right.
But if you're my boy and you've known me for a while, you're like, Ryan, you know what you do.
Right.
You know, this is your pattern.
That's
And
right.
this is how you go around. I'm like, okay, you know, I
Right.
can't deny it now. Somebody knows me, you know. I have friends here in Maryland that have known me. This guy, he's known me since 4th grade.
Right.
You know, and his wife was in 1st grade with me. So
Wow.
they might not know me as intimately as some of the friends that I've had later, but they know Brian. They knew me through high school, they knew me in college. So they know some things. And when we talk, they can pull from, you know, things. Oh, maybe you feel like this because of what happened when we was young, or this and that.
Right.
So it's that kind of community. And I think we used to have that, but we don't anymore. I cringe now when I go. I just was in Harlem a few weeks ago, and it's not the place I remember. And
Right.
it's not just the integration that's bothering me. Well, yeah, it is that too, but it's not just the integration. It's the fact that it's not a family place anymore. When I used to live in the Bronx and I would go over that bridge to Harlem, it felt like all of Harlem was somebody's grandmother's house.
That's right.
You know, I would walk down the street and the old lady say, "Hey, yeah, young man, how you doing? Hey, how you doing?" You know, I don't know these people, but
That's
it
right.
felt like that, you know, and I think that we need that. Do you think it would be good for us in America to find a couple of acres of land and just say, okay, we're going to start a little community right here and just do our thing? What do you think about stuff like that? I mean, a lot of people I've seen. What's his name? Mike. What's his Killer Mike? I've seen Killer Mike talk about this a lot, and I saw him even start it. He had a show where they had that going on. I don't know what happened because I didn't see the rest of the show.
Yeah, that show felt like it was a little for a show. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
no doubt. It definitely did. I mean, if that could happen for real.
But it is happening for real. There's some black folks in in Georgia right now who have bought some land and they want to start a quote unquote free town. I mean, I haven't read that much about it. It's been a while since I read about it. But I do know that there's some folks who bought some land in Georgia, and that is their idea to have a self-governing black community.
Well, what do you feel about that?
Well, I love the idea, but we had Rosewood and Black Wall Street and so many other solid black communities where black folks were doing what they needed to do and becoming in I want to say wealthy, but that's, you know, but that wealth is not just the money. It's a tight knit community where everybody benefits.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, the States is still a very hostile environment for black folks. It was founded on our oppression.
Right.
And because it was founded on our oppression, it's going to try to feed off of that for as long as it can. Now, I think that we're getting to a point where black folks are starting to say, nah, enough of that. We can do our own thing. But state sanctioned violence against black folks is still huge. You know what I mean? You've heard me tell this story many times. You know, I was teaching, I left Massachusetts. My wife and I went there. We had our first, my ex-wife and I moved to Massachusetts because she was a doctor. So we went there for her med school program, for her, what is it called after you? Residency. For her residency. So the idea was to go to Massachusetts for her residency and then move back to South Carolina, where I would start a school and she would be working on healthcare in the black community. That was the idea. But, you know, things didn't work out. We ended up getting divorced. I moved back down south, still hoping that she's going to come down with my daughter at some point and that we can still get this plan off the ground. But moving from Massachusetts to South Carolina, I take a $10,000 pay cut because South Carolina doesn't pay educators as much as Massachusetts does. That's the first thing. The second thing is that now I'm trying to convert my my teaching license from Massachusetts to South Carolina, and it's supposed to just be reciprocity. It's basically signing, and I jumped through all of the hoops I needed to before, but because of institutionalized racism, they're saying, well, no, you got to do this, you got to do that. I said, show me where it says that, because I was on the website. I did everything on the website that the website said, including taking a test that I didn't have to take before I left South Carolina, because I knew that I was going to have to use it when I come back. And so, well, we just need you to stop that and just do what we told you. Okay, wait a minute. So that's the next thing. The third thing is, because I'm not making as much money in South Carolina, now I'm driving for Uber and Lyft at least 4 times a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Thursday nights, right? So now I'm driving and I'm getting pulled over, no lie, at least every 10 days.
Right.
At least every 10 days. Now, the safest I felt was when I had some white passengers in the car who would cuss out the cop and saying, "You lying, he did not run through the stop sign. You need to stop harassing him." I can't say that. I can't put that on the side of the road, especially if ain't no witnesses around.
Right.
But the white folks in the car can, and that's the only time that I'm feeling safe. So now think about that. I'm getting pulled over at least every 10 days, at least. And we're seeing all these black folks getting killed on the side of the road,
right,
for no reason, and so I'm just like, no, we can't be here. I can't stay here because I will not survive. I can't. I may not make it. I just turned 50 last year. But that's because I've been. And the only reason I think I made it this long is because I've been out of the country for most of my life.
right.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, my brother had some ribs broken. My father had some rib broken. My brother lost some teeth and cracked skull. All of this because of white supremacy and racism and all of that kind of stuff down south. And where they were and got brutalized, I would have been there had I not been leading a group of kids in Italy that particular summer. You understand? Wow. And so all of that to say, I respect and admire people who stay stateside and want to do that thing to help all of us do better.
Right.
I love it. It's what I wanted to do. But in the grand scheme of things, when I think about my ex-wife and when I think about my daughter getting pulled over all those times, the United States was a toxic environment for me, right, and one in which I would not have been able to succeed. When it came down to it, it would have killed me. Right. So I love that people are doing it. I want them to do it, and I'm going to support it any way that I can. But for us, for me and mine, our thing is we don't want to be in that toxic environment. It's like right, it's like putting a goldfish in salt water and asking it why is floating belly up on top. Well, that's not its environment. Right. You know what I mean? You got to put it in an environment that's it's meant to thrive in.
That's right.
So for us, we're here. And to be honest, the toughest thing for my wife and myself is to feel like we aren't serving our people. You know what I mean? I think that's the thing that we struggle with the most. And so, she's online as an embodiment liberation coach and helping people tune into their own bodies and find their own freedom. And particularly, she's focused on people of African descent. So that's what she's doing. And when we get to the East Coast and we buy our land and we can build our school and our healing center, the idea is that we want to work in conjunction with folks from the States so that we can help people in the States heal. But we know that racism and white supremacy is worldwide. And so even if we aren't working with people who are African American, we're going to be working with people of African descent here, and that's our mission. So
that's great, man. I mean, listen, I know now. I've heard a lot of people talk like you, but I know that this is your thing, because when I would come to your apartment in Kuwait, it had to be the blackest apartment and I don't mean black as in dark or anything. I mean, you had plants that I used to see when I would go to some of the elders that were in my father's Pan-African religion. I would go in there and it was just like that. The art on the wall, the music that would be playing, all of it. Just the smell was, the smell of oils and all kind of stuff. I felt like I was in Brooklyn. Like, honestly, this is crazy. Like, these guys really transformed this place, and y'all are not joking about what you're trying to do. Even in your kitchen, I would look at the stuff on the shelves, and I didn't even know you got some of that stuff. I'm like, they got this in Kuwait. It was all the stuff that I saw in people's houses that said they lived the way y'all were living. And it was a comfortable environment. The things that you would be watching on television, I think you were the one that got me to start watching that show, Watchmen. I didn't know anything about it. And when I turned it on, I was stuck. And I was like, okay. And you were always pushing me to watch something else that, would not, sometimes it was entertaining, but it was always something that would either be supportive of us or something that was going to be educational for us. And I was like, okay, you know what? It felt crazy because I always liked to hang around older Black men when I was younger because I felt like I could learn something.
Right.
And it started getting harder and harder to find older Black men as I got older.
Right.
But I was like, hey man, this brother is on the same level. And there's times we talked and we gave advice and we went back and forth and stuff. And it was a good thing. And so I like the fact that there are still people out here who are like, no, I was taught this way, and this is what we need to continue to do. We need to be community minded. We need to grab brothers who are going wrong and say, hey man,
right,
what you doing? And we have done that together as well. If a brother seems to not treating a sister right, hey, look, man, what's going on? And be bold about it. Not shy and I don't know what I want to say to you. No, brother, look, this is what's going on. What's going on? You're gonna treat this girl right, or you're gonna do this thing right. And we did a lot of that, I think, way more than I probably would have done in a community at home. But because we were so far away from home, and we were a segregated small community of us, it was like, man, we owe it to each other to at least be open and to be honest.
Have each other's back. You know what I mean? Like I can have your back if I know what you're going through and what you're dealing with.
That's right. But see, that's the problem. We're taught not to open up. And so by the time you open up, I heard a guy say today that, and this broke my heart. I heard this today. He said that if you are married, and he didn't say this for every single couple, but he said for most couples, especially Black couples, he said, if you're married and you're opening up to your wife and you're telling her how you feel about stuff, she may be happy at the time that you're being vulnerable and open to her, but she still will see it as a weakness. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, that's a problem if that's true,
right?
Because that means that all the things that women are asking for are making us bad in their eyes. Mm-hmm. I want a brother who's vulnerable. I want a brother who's going to be in touch with his feelings and this and the other. And then it's going to make me look weak. That's a problem, And so I think our society has perpetrated this, and we need to be able to find all of the little things that we say and do that came from these evil masters who plug these things into our society so that we keep saying them over and over and over. Mm-hmm. I hate cliches. Okay, I'm against colloquialisms and cliches because I think, first of all, a lot of them are used out of context.
Right.
And then they teach us things that we don't really need in our lives, and our kids take them more literally than we do. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you one, for example. I just posted this today. I said, when people say, what God has for you, nobody can mess it up. It's just what it is. God has it for you. I got a problem with that because you can mess it up.
That's true.
You can easily mess it up.
That's true.
And if you can, that means somebody else can influence you and you mess it up. There's plenty of people who have messed up things. And to me, if you continue to say something like that, you're sort of taking our responsibility out of what happens in our lives.
Right.
Now you want people to just sit around and wait. Okay, well, God got something for me. I'm going to get it.
Right.
Right. I don't want you to do that. I want you to work hard. I want you to do your thing. I want you to go for yours. And I think there's so many things like that hold us back. And if we could find some of these root causes and sort of take them out, then I think that we might be on a path to some type of growth. Right. So let me ask you this. What is it like in Costa Rica as far as the society? I mean, I'm sure it's not as racist as America. I'm sure there's some institutionalized racism because there is all over the world. But how much better do you feel out there? And how would you feel if you had a son right now? Would you be able to raise him out there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We're here with my daughter, and I want my oldest daughter to come out as well. And we plan on having another child while we're here. So So for me, yeah, Costa Rica definitely feels much safer than the States. In fact, anytime my daughter has Easter week off, my oldest daughter, and so normally I would go pick her up. But we all caught COVID last time we were home. It doesn't make sense to go home for that week and end up coming back sick again.
Right.
Not only that, but the mental stress. I mean, it really is just driving and seeing red and blue lights. So blue lights in the rearview mirror. I mean, that's nerve wracking for me. It makes me feel unsafe. You know what I mean? And I wish it were just a feeling. But the statistics we know, the numbers that we know about the people who've been killed by police officers, unarmed men and women who have been killed, by the people who are sworn to serve and protect us, is ridiculous. The numbers that we know is minuscule, but we know enough that we know that it can be us, right? I don't feel that here. First of all, cops aren't setting up speed traps so that they can get money that way, and we end up being the victims of it. Right. So that's number one. The second part of it is, I will tell you that I did get pulled over the other day. I got pulled over. So they're not on the side of the road and then pull up behind you with the lights on type of thing, but they might be on a small road and they'll see the car coming and tell you to come on over. Now, here's the difference. I got a U.S. passport, right? So my U.S. passport, we can call it blue passport privilege, is like white privilege in the States. Once they see the passport, they're like, okay, we don't want to mess with him. We don't want to get in trouble. Now, they will try to extort you. They will try to get some money out of you when they see that blue passport. But check this. So what they tell me is, I don't have a Costa Rica driver's license because you have to be in the country consecutively for 3 months before you can even apply. So I've got my U.S. driver's license, which we can drive with, but only if you also have your passport with you.
Okay.
Because your passport tells the police officer when you got to the country, and then they can decide if you've been in the country for more than 3 months. Now you've overextended your visa, and they can write you a fine for that.
Okay.
I didn't have my passport with me, so he's like, "Oh, well, I got to take the license plates from you now." And I'm like, "What?" So now if you're driving around with no license plates, you end up in jail. So I'm like, hold on, wait a minute, there's got to be something. He says, "Well, no, you have to drive it." I said, "No." I said, "I do not have the actual passport with me, but I do have some papers back here with it's a picture of my passport. I've got all the papers that I needed to do because we were supposed to be applying for residency, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "Yeah, but if you don't have the passport, I got it." So then his buddy comes up and he says, "Well, I tell you what, how about we do this? How about, we're going to let him go because he looks like he's in a rush. He needs to do this. So we're going to let him go. He can just buy us a refreshment or something." So now, what did I have in my wallet? I had 10,000 colones, which is a lot. That's $16. It's not a whole lot, but it's 16. It basically ends up being $16. And so I can give them that, or I can, plead and hope that they give me change or something like that. But like 10,000 here. I gave that to them willingly. Why? Because the last ticket I got in the States was in the state of Virginia for driving 9 miles over the speed limit. And it cost me $500.
Wow.
Because they were like, it's a misdemeanor. You have to go to court. If you don't go to court, you need to send somebody who can go to court for you, or it's going to be against your fine. And the next time you drive through Virginia, we can lock you up. So I had to pay for a lawyer, I had to pay court fees, and I had to pay the fine. And it's all $500. Why? I wasn't endangering nobody. You know what I mean? That's the state shaking me down, right? That's the money aspect of it. And then on top of that, I got to worry about, am I going to be dead when it's all said and done?
Right.
So here in Costa Rica feels so much safer, not only because I don't have to worry about the people who, again, sworn to serve and protect me, brutalizing me, over policing me, and seeing me as the threat. I don't have to worry about that. That part's great. But also because Costa Rica as a country got rid of their military years ago and said, we're going to we're not committed to war. We're committed to education. So all of the money that we were spending on the military, we're now going to put that into education.
Okay.
We're committed to conserving the environment. You know what I mean? So it's rainy season now, so it's a little bit dark outside. But it's beautiful. It's all green all around me. We saw toucans on campus today. We saw a couple of fox cubs on campus today. Like, this is the environment in which we live now. I mean, if you think about in Kuwait, Mizan was born during the pandemic, right? Yeah. So the girl didn't know grass for most of her life, right?
In the desert, right?
In the desert. And when we went downstairs, Carmen would take her downstairs to get some fresh air, and all they could do is walk around inside our little compound that only has cement on it. We took it to Al Shahid Park a few times, and the first time we went, it almost broke my heart because she's like, what is this? Like, she's touching the grass. She's like, what? I don't like it. Like,
right.
But now, you know, Carmen, we're in a gated community. Not that that's where I want to live, but you know, being an international educator, the school pays for our apartment. So now Carmen and them leave the apartment. They can walk to the duck pond. There's grass everywhere. There's birds and fresh air, and not just dust and sand like it was in the desert. So it's, for us, this is where we are supposed to be. Now, the one little caveat I'll say is that we would like to be around more Black folks, which is why we're going to be on the East Coast, because that's where the Black folks are. And you know, that we thought about Africa, like the continent was calling us strong. You know what I mean? I think, you know, that we were looking at Ghana and Tanzania. But when it was all said and done, the pandemic hit and we were so far away from home. You know, both of our parents are getting older. Carmen's grandpop just passed away. She couldn't get back for the funeral, but at least we're in the same time zone. So, you know, she could attend the funeral virtually. And so we just wanted to be closer. And when we look at the Caribbean nations, you know, there are a lot of them that are beautiful that we thought about as well. But, you know, with global warming the way that it is, hurricanes are just ravaging the Caribbean like every year, multiple times a year. So we're like, well, where else can we be safe and be with Black folks? In Costa Rica just ended up topping the list. So
Wow. Well, listen, brother, I'm gonna tell you, I love you and your wife, man. Y'all are great people. Obviously, I was around when Mizan came into the world as well. Definitely a fan of hers.
And you were a godsend. I'm going to interrupt you only because I was supposed to have started the show by thanking you for honoring me to give you the opportunity to speak on your show. First of all, I'm going to interrupt you with that. Secondly, the other thing that I wanted to say, I'm going to let you get back to yours, but I gotta put this out here, because if not for you, I mean, a lot of people stepped up, but you came through for us in our real time of need, bro. I mean, you know, we were struggling with, you know, we had our time in the hospital, it was great, but now we were back home and we got to produce food, but the baby's crying and Carmen's got a stomach all sewn up, so she can't do a whole lot. So we were just on the move. And brother, I think a lot of other folks set up some kind of what do they call it, a food train or something, where people are going to bring food every night. And you were like, yeah, okay, whatever, but I'm gonna bring food too. And you were part of that.
You know, they kept asking me what you're gonna do, and I said, you know, Carmen had already asked me, and it was weird because, you know, I'd never been in baby showers and stuff like that.
Right.
And, you know, it wasn't a lot of us brothers there. So when y'all were gonna have the baby, all the girls would always be talking about what they were gonna do, and I'd be sitting there like, well, what y'all gonna let me do? And they're looking at me like, shut up, dude, you know. So I was like, but I got to do something. This is my boy. And I mean, we both of y'all, it wasn't like I like Zeke and y'all like Carmen. You know, I was like, no, we like them. Right. So Carmen said, hey, Brian, because she saw them talking one day and she saw how they were sort of like pushing me out. And I was like, I don't like that. So she said, hey, can you do me a favor? And I said, yeah. She said, I would love if you just cook for me for maybe a month or so. You know, see, I was like, okay, cool. I can do that. Thank you for giving me an assignment. Now, I probably did way more than she asked, but part of it was that I love to cook. Yeah. And she gave me a way to cook without eating. So it was like, okay, I can cook all I want and I don't have to gain any weight. Yeah. Okay, cool. I can do that. You know what I'm saying? And it made it good, and it was good for y'all. And I could see just from the smiles on your faces that, yo, this is a good gift. It's always hard to figure out what's a gift to give to somebody, but every time when you come by, you look at me like, dude, all right. And then when your in-laws came and they were like, wait, that's the dude making food? And I was like, oh, okay, y'all appreciate it. Okay, cool. And believe me, it felt like nothing. It felt like, yeah, like I was at home, you know, just doing my thing, and y'all gonna come over and get some. So
it felt to us like love, and we appreciated it, brother.
Well, no problem, man. No problem. Now, this is what I want brothers to be able to do. And this is what I'm trying to say to people. Whatever your talent is, if you got a brother in need, to just give to him. Give to him and his family because they're in need. You know, and when you can't do it, you can't do it. You know, I don't think if you ever said, hey, Brian, you got food? And I was like, no, I don't have anything. You wouldn't have been mad. No. You know, but it's when I have it, that's how community is. And I had never been a part of a community like that when it wasn't my family. So it actually helped me probably as much as it helped y'all, because it was like, okay, this is how you do. And this is what I want to express to people. People say that Black people don't do this stuff. And I'm like, listen, we do. And not only do we do it in droves. It's not a few of us. This is how we continue to survive. There's no way we could have survived all the racism and all the craziness if we weren't doing for each other. So, I mean, I appreciate you. I appreciate your appreciation. And definitely, I feel like, hey, that's how we're supposed to be. And there are things, talks, and things that y'all have done. There's things that Carmen has done for me that changed my life. So I felt like we was just reciprocal, man. We just kept giving back and forth, and we're going to continue, even though now we're not in the same country anymore. Listen, that's just what it's going to be. So I definitely appreciate that. And listen, I will continue. Y'all are family now. Mizan is going to have to see Uncle Brian again someday. So,
absolutely, bro. You welcome here whenever you're ready.
No, listen. When I can get the ticket over there, believe me, I will definitely be.
It'll be better when we got our own land, but whenever you're ready, where we are now is not a bad place either. So you can come on through, and you got a bedroom with your name on it. So, whenever you're ready, just come on through, bro.
Well, that will work.
Family, and I not only appreciate, your presence in our life and what you did for us when we were in Kuwait, but I think, I understand. I think that that you have a higher calling. And I appreciate you trying to rise to that. So I'm always going to support and do whatever I can to help, keep encouraging brothers to do the right thing. And I appreciate you doing the same thing for me. So, bro, keep up the good work. I'm here for you. And we're going to talk again soon. I promised Carmen that on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'd be home as close to 5 as I can. So that I can do her thing. So I definitely got to run now. But if we want to do a follow-up to this, like I said, we'll be in Kuwait on Monday. And next week is much more relaxed. So if you have any other follow-up questions or whatever, we'll set it up and we'll continue then.
Hey, listen, no problem. So whenever you're ready to be back on the show, let me know. Definitely talk to your dad, because still want to get him on here.
I definitely will.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you. Have a great one. Get home to the family, and we'll talk to you soon.
Love you, brother. Keep up the good work.
Take it easy. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much for joining us today, viewers. I had a great time talking to my brother from he's a Brooklynite, so I'm a Bronx brother, so we got that bond as well. But definitely met him on the way to Kuwait, and that was great. And it's always going to be somebody who I stay in touch with. So definitely had a great time talking to him. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And I want to tell you not to forget to like and subscribe to our channel and to spread it around. Tell a few friends. Let somebody know about the show. It's a positive show. We wanted to get the message out. So please let your friends know. The videos will be up as long as YouTube will allow them to be up. So go ahead and check them out. Check out some of the old videos and leave us a note and let us know what you think. Okay. Thanks a lot. Have a great week, and I'll see you again.